Are you looking for an escape from manufactured truth wrapped in selfish agenda? Don't you just want to have a real and raw conversation, all masks and rules aside? That's what you're getting here at Titan Evolution Podcast. Get rid of all the nonsense information and discuss everything under the sun without filters. Listen to real stories of real people who will put your current perspectives to the test, guide you on living the life you truly want, and see everything free from judgment and pretenses. Time to get rid of those unhealthy environments and let your authentic self shine. Here are your hosts, Travis Johnson and Carol Carpenter.
Hey, welcome to the show. I'm Carol Carpenter, and this is my ridiculous co-host, Travis Johnson, sitting there laughing hysterically. And our special guest today is Andy McDowell. Andy, do you prefer Andy or Andrew?
Oh, Andy. The only person who calls me Andrew is my mother, and if that comes out, I'm in trouble.
Okay. All right. So Andy is the founder of Generate Your Value, an entrepreneurial and small business coaching and consulting firm, as well as a co-host of his own podcast, the Generate Your Value podcast. Welcome, Andy.
Great to be here with you all. I can't wait to see what you're going to throw at me.
Oh boy.
This is a pretty
literally throw at me.
Straightforward show, so I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, that's not what I've been told.
No?
No.
Shit. Is the word
Our
getting
secret's
out,
out, Carol. People are talking
know.
about us, and it's always amazing.
So start with the question, Travis.
Well, I gotta say one thing before I ask the question that I always start with is that, like, as we've been doing this show, we've been getting this buzz of people that want to be guests on the show. We had Joshua B. Leon. We know it was the first episode that we released, and he's like, "It's the most fun I've ever had as a podcast guest ever," and it's kind of true. Like, we have a fantastic time on the show, and when we hit record, we were laughing because, as you might imagine, I was already talking shit before we hit record. So we come right into the episode. We already are high energy, and we're going to bring that even higher today with Andy, who used to work for Boeing. So if it's not Boeing, I'm not going. Andy, what makes you a Titan?
Well, a couple of things. You look on the career side, there's not many people in this world that can say that they help both the Chinese and Russian governments prepare their airports for their Olympic Games 2008 and 14. I have 2 patents.
Holy fuck.
Or I should say I'm a co-author on 2 patents. Boeing owns the patents, but it was myself and a colleague that generated the ideas, obviously. So that's sort of the work career Titanness, if you will, for myself. The other is
that's why we brought you on the show, but those things aren't why you're a Titan. They're the result of why you're a Titan.
So the result of a Titan is I'm probably one of the few people in this world that is both strong on left brain stuff and right brain stuff. You know, when I go on as a guest on other podcasts, people are just amazed to say, wait a minute, you're a Georgia Tech grad, you're an engineer, but yet you have this strong creative side. You're a singer, guitar player, photographer. It doesn't compute for me because most people think they're one side of the brain or the other side of the brain. But, my strength in business was on the strategic side, and that's because I had the creative side, thinking out of the box, get out of the sandbox, think about things. And, oh, by the way, I can also tell you whether that idea really has any chances of success because I can dig deep into airspace design, very complex technical subjects, and get in the weeds with you. And there's not many people that I think you could say that about.
So you're a Titan because you use your whole brain? Is that what you're telling me?
I use my whole brain, every square inch
I try to use
of my brain
is
I don't in
use
use.
Too much energy.
Are you saying you have an energy management issue?
Well, I used to have an energy management issue, but since I retired from the Navy, I only really do the things that I have to do. Like, you know, when you're younger and you don't have any discernment in your life, and like some whirlwind comes your way and you start getting spooled up for no reason, it's not your damn circus, but you find that you're trying to chase down the monkeys anyhow. Like, I stopped doing that kind of stuff, right?
Yes.
So I allow my energy to be used for what I want to use it for. I was going to say power of good, but we also know that, you know, it's not just necessarily the power of good that I use my energy for, but really worked hard over the last couple of years about keeping like drama out of my life, understanding it's not my monkeys, not my circus, that energy vampires do exist. And if you invite them in, they're going to suck the life out of you. I've definitely worked hard on those things.
Well, I think as you get older, you understand the value of time and where you want to get a return on your investment of your time. You know, we talk a lot about that resource called money, the old dollar bill, and so to speak, about getting a return on your investment. But the most what's the term? The most constraint in terms of resources that you have in your life is your time. And as you get older and older, you appreciate that, and you start avoiding the drama and the vampires and everything else, because it's like, I don't get any return. I don't get any return on it, and it just sucks the life out of me.
Well, time is finite. You get more time.
That's why it's constrained.
Right.
You don't get any more.
Exactly. But return on that particular time investment doesn't have to necessarily be monetary either. Nope. It can fulfill you, right? It can be something that you spend the time with your friends, and that friend might need your help, and it gives you fulfillment to help them because it's somebody you care about. Right? So it's not always monetarily an issue, right? It can be used in so many different ways. Like,
well, it's about value, right? And value comes in different shapes, sizes, and colors. Right. So time is something of value to you, and it's not printed on a piece of paper. So
were you always like fully left-brained and right-brained, or was there something that happened or something you were encouraged throughout your life in order to cultivate those sides?
I would say growing up, I was very much left-sided, and that's why I went into engineering, strong in math, and being very analytical. But it was, I would say, more of a journey for me on the right-hand side. I had, you know, you said I'm going to get exposed on this show, so here we start, right?
I didn't say anything of the.
Well,
oh, don't you try to act innocent.
I talk a lot on my podcast about my journey. My life journey is about self-esteem. And in high school, college, in my early 20s, I had bad self-esteem. And, you know, creativity comes out of love. And when you don't have a lot of self-love, it's hard to be creative. It's hard to be trusting in yourself, caring for yourself, and say, okay, I'm going to try some things, and I'm probably going to fall off my horse and have to get back up again, so to speak, to continue on this journey of creativity. And to keep shame and other things out of your life when you're doing that, you've got to be filled with self-love. And so I don't think my creativity journey of, you know, I didn't start singing till I was in my late 20s, after I had gone to therapy and done work to work on myself from a self-esteem perspective.
When you say singer, are you talking like church? You talking like karaoke? Are you on stage? What
Church.
Yeah.
My wife at the time was in the choir, and she urged me, you know, heard me singing a little bit in the house or whatever, and said, you ought to join the choir with me. She'd been in choir since high school with her school and so forth, and joined the choir, enjoyed it. The music director at the time approached me and said, I'd like for you to try doing a solo. And oh, by the way, that first solo is first piece of the second half of the Messiah, which is written for a tenor, which I was a tenor, and it's a lot of up and down, up and down, up and down of notes and so forth. And I knocked it out of the park from that perspective. And that started my singing journey.
But that helped your self-esteem, didn't it, Andy? I mean, being
Yeah,
able to
once I was through it and I got the accolades, and it started helping me to develop some confidence from that perspective. And today, I'm up in front of 150, 200 people every Sunday with a guitar and singing in a church praise band. So
that's awesome.
it's been a journey, but that journey wouldn't have existed if I hadn't reclaimed my life, went to therapy, read books, and so forth to say, this is not the life I want for myself. And I'm going to do what I need to bring the power back to me, because I was giving it to everybody else.
Oh, yeah.
Looking for validation and so forth from everybody else. And I said, no, I'm going to reclaim that power back and develop self-love for myself.
I got to ask you, what happened to the energy you had in our pre-interview? Because as you're telling your story now, the energy is almost completely drained out of you.
It's because we're talking about something serious, something I'm passionate, something I'm passionate about.
To put the spin on your story, that story of your journey for everyone is shitty. It sucks.
Yeah,
you get to put the spin on it you want, and it's a story of triumph. Or it's a story of triumph. Fuck yeah, I kicked ass. Look at me go. Right?
And
don't draw the energy down because it's serious.
No,
you can have tons of energy. It can be electrifying. Shit, Michael throws fire. Like, you can have a story with energy in it.
Not
even
fire.
And that's where my journey is right now, is to be comfortable with that vulnerability and getting the energy behind it and getting the energy for others.
Yeah. The more
right.
you tell it, the less hold it has on you.
Tomorrow I start a process of getting trained to do a TEDx talk. And when I get on that with Dan Young, and when I get in front of a crowd with TEDx, it's one of the things I'm going to be working on, is to bring that energy in that 15-minute talk to get people fired up and inspired and so forth. But this is my natural self, and I'm an introvert that learned how to be an extrovert. So that's part of my life journey, is to be even more and more and more extroverted and bring that energy.
Yeah. Well, but when you go through hardships, the beauty is you came out of it.
Yes.
And the truth is, everybody has to come out of it. It's how we choose to relay that message to everybody else out there. If they know that you can come out of it, and guess what? We talk about this all the time. What's the one thing after going through struggles? You survived.
You survived.
Right?
Came out the other side.
You came out the other side. And so your message to other people can be, fuck, man, that was tough as shit, but I learned a lot. It fucking sucked, but I'm here now.
It sucked like hell.
I have it on good authority that hell sucks.
Yeah.
Do you?
That's what I hear. Good authority that hell sucks. Yeah.
You found the sources, huh?
Personally,
yeah, well,
yes.
I know a guy.
You know a guy.
I know a guy. What the big thing that people miss is that everyone has that story of something that happened to them. It might not be capital T trauma like it was in my life. It can be lowercase t trauma, but it is still trauma. It's still something that happened. Michael Ravenwood just spoke with us about how he didn't feel the love in his household. And although his parents had the basics covered, the things that they were focused on were likely just running a damn household, and didn't know how to convey in a way that he needed that kind of love. And we as parents fuck our kids up because the thing that we're focused on is the thing that we were missing. And then the thing that they were missing when they become parents, that's what they'll be focused on, and they'll miss something else. And the big tragedy is waiting too long to have that conversation with the parents to say, you fucked me up. And I remember having this conversation with my dad, because my daughter had just had it with me, and I was thinking about my dad, and my dad told me, like, let me tell you what I did to our to your grandma, right? Every generation has that story where their parents did something to mess them up, whatever the thing is. And it's not that, we're incapable or bad people or any of that stuff. It's that we simply don't know how to do all that stuff. And generally speaking, especially in America, we have kids where we're young. We're still in our own trauma. We don't know how to pay the damn bills. All of a sudden, you've
Mhm.
got this creature that's fully dependent on you for everything, and you know what the fuck you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, what I learned out of therapy was the whole issue for me was my relationship with my father. And my father's heart was in the right place. I mean, this is how I learned your parents are human, right? We like to put our parents up on a pedestal and think they're perfect. But the reality is they're human, right? So whenever I ran into a difficulty, I'm not talking about a difficulty like I'm in the principal's office or I just went and robbed a bank kind of trouble. It's more like I'm having problems with a homework assignment or something of that nature. My dad's nature was to just take over the problem and do the work. So I didn't learn how to fish. He didn't teach me how to fish. He wasn't a coach. He wanted me to do well, but his thinking in his head was, in order for my son to get a good result, I have to take over and do the work.
He's a fixer.
He's a fixer. And so subconsciously, what was happening with me is saying, you're not good enough.
Right.
Right. Your dad had to take over. He had to do the work for you. So you're just not worth a shit.
Instead of giving you the tools.
Instead of giving me the tools and saying, it's okay, if you get a C on this, no big deal. What's important here is that your effort and you learn from it. And you and I can sit down after you get the grade and your effort, look at your effort and think about ways we can improve it next time and be a coach through all this effort and say it's worth my investment in time. But my dad was in corporate sales leadership. He was traveling all the time, and he was coming home and thinking, I only have so much time to take care of things at home that I got to take care of before I got to hit the road and go do something else. So I'm sure that was part of the equation for him, was saying, I don't have the time to coach like I'd really like to coach. So I'm just going to take over things and get the job done and be on my way kind of thinking. And
yeah, so he was trying to do it immediately to get the immediate result instead
immediate
of
result.
Yeah,
exactly. It wasn't investing. It wasn't investing in me. He was investing in getting the job done per se and moving on.
Yeah.
From that perspective.
I've been that guy, right? Between the military and having a family and trying to do college and education and all the things that the military demands of you. Because if you give them any of it, they just demand more, right? And my wife and I were a fairly young couple. We had our daughter. I don't remember if we had our daughter and our son at this time or if we just had our daughter. We would go home and she was home all day, and something as simple as like a cup being left on the counter ruined her entire day because it shows that I didn't care for her. Right. And then me doing work and all the demands at work and coming home, I would be like, I just need like time to unwind. And this was us, discovering and uncovering that, the things that we needed. I was like, babe, if you're mad about a cup and that's your big concern, man, our lives are fucking fantastic. If you're that upset about a cup, man, everything else in our life that truly matters is amazing. But
let's pick our battles here, people.
Yeah. I discovered that when I got home, I had to take and do a little mini ritual in my car, my truck, depending on what year it was, before I walked in the house. Because as soon as I went in that house, I needed to be a husband. I needed to be a dad. I needed to be anything else that they needed. And if I didn't take the time to take off work and get out of work mode before I went in there, then it was just going to cause conflict. So the same thing when I ended up being in college full time, I made sure, because I'd already learned the lesson, I made sure that I didn't leave the library at school until all the homework was done, because as soon as I walked in there into the house, I had to be there for them. And if I was distracted, and it sounds like this is where your dad was at, he couldn't fully take off of work when he was in the house because there was always something more to be done.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, there were other instances too. My dad's in the Illinois Baseball State Hall of Fame. And the sport that I played in high school was baseball. And on occasion he was in town, he'd come watch my game. And when we get home, sitting on the dinner table, he was being a coach again, but a coach of, well, you didn't do this well, you didn't do that well. You need to work on this. It was never a, hey, you made a good play. I played third base. You had a great throw to first base in the 6th inning, or it was never any kind of praise or anything. It was all about improvement. But after a while, it just sounds like it's just criticism over and over and over and over again, right? You got to mix it up with praise.
He didn't understand what you needed either. I mean, his parents probably did the same thing to him, so he's just perpetuating the pattern, right?
I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, the one thing we learn, obviously, is from those mistakes, we're like, yeah, I fucking don't want to be like that person, so I'm going to do everything the opposite.
Oh, yeah.
You know, just like Travis said in the beginning, right? You know, you pick certain things to focus on based on your childhood, but then you're missing your actual child's needs because you're not recognizing them, because this is what's important to you, not that.
Or you just don't have the capability to be the way that your kids need to be, because you haven't done the work, inner work for yourself, that you just, it's extremely difficult for you to be who you need to be for your kids, because you didn't have the model. You don't have the self-love to understand exactly what it is that your kids need.
Yeah. So how do you do that with your clients?
Well, it's about coaching. It's about planting seeds. It's about praising them when they do things well. It's about understanding of where it is that they want to go with their life, and it's about mindset. Where is your mind? What kind of tapes are you playing inside your head?
Yeah.
And do we need to work on those first to get those going well before you can be a leader yourself? So, my philosophy and the way I work is we work on self-leadership first to make sure that we're good to go there first before we start talking about leading others.
I'm smiling. The notes I took on Michael, we talked about that you've got to learn how to run, you got to learn how to fall, and then you have to learn unarmed sword evasion. Talking about the way of the ninja.
Oh my God. Tell Andy about like the ninja thing that we were all talking about, the meme.
So I saw this like 10 years ago or whatever. Oh, actually, it's probably like 15 years ago. There was a pic that said picture two ninjas like in the battle, and then Carol's like, well, you can't see him anyway, right? In this photo, it said the 10th annual like ninja parade, and the photo was just like a main street with no one on it.
No one on it.
There's no one on it. You can't see the ninjas. They're real, but you can't tell that they're there. All you know is they either are still alive or you're bleeding out. That's the only.
Or you're bleeding out, right?
Yeah. There's with carcasses everywhere.
There are carcasses everywhere about 2 miles up the road.
Yeah.
They never made it to Main Street.
Yeah.
Would you say that your childhood actually then, and discovering yourself then led to you doing the kind of work that you do now?
Oh, absolutely. Between my reclaiming my life, doing my own therapy work, and then one of the blessings that I had in my Boeing days was given an executive coach who sort of took me that last mile, so to speak, in the journey. In my leadership at Boeing, I was too busy looking back. I was still sort of in a fixed mindset, not a growth mindset. And she finished off the last mile of the self-discovery and the self-love that I was then able to turn around and be so much more an effective leader. And I truly got to see the impact that a coach can make on somebody's life. And that set me on the journey to start doing that for mentees that I had within Boeing, as well as wanting to do it. My goal was to do 30 years at Boeing. I did 22. I got laid off because of the 737 MAX crisis, along with thousands of other employees, and said, okay, I'm going to go do this full time now instead of part time.
What do you mean by reclaiming your life?
Just taking ownership of it, right? To say the only person that's going to take care of myself is me. It's nobody else's responsibility but me. Once again, going back to that power statement, you're giving it to everybody else and asking everybody else to take care of you. And by reclaiming that power, you say, no, I got ownership of it. I'm in charge of it. I'll take care of it myself. And every other relationship that I have is just icing on the cake, so to speak, because I got it. I got the ball, right? As you say in the Navy, I got
line. Get out of my way, motherfucker.
get out of my way.
Gangway.
I'm going after it. Going after it.
Gangway in the Navy. If we're getting the Navy speak gangway. Means I'm coming, I'm carrying something heavy, and if you're in the way, that's your fault.
Gangway, yeah. But you got my statement, right? Being Navy aviation, I got the ball. Maverick has the ball.
Yep. This is so what he's
I got
talking
the
about
ball.
is pilot.
Going in for a landing, get out of my way.
It's pilot speak for I've got the clear landing, I'm on target, I've got the ball. Yeah.
I got the ball.
Gotcha.
Yeah. See, Andy and I understand, but Carol didn't know, and I'm assuming a huge portion of our audience didn't know that unless they just happen to be aviation. Yeah.
Well, they may have watched Top Gun and heard Maverick say that, but they still didn't have a clue what he was talking about, right? That there's a instrument landing system on the left-hand side of the back of the boat that they're watching that tells them how to go up and down, left and right to land on the boat.
I can't tell you how many people I've talked to that thought Top Gun had Air Force airplanes flying on a Navy ship. Have you heard that?
No.
I have talked to so many people that have told me that, and I'm like, the Navy has more airplanes than the Air Force, right? And they're like, what? And I was like, the Army has more boats than the Navy. And they're like, what?
Mm-hmm.
Boat is a very specific thing.
Well, you also have to understand the mission, right? You have to understand the mission. The Air Force is all land-based. There's only so much land in the world, but you can cover more of the world with boats. Mm-hmm. Therefore, you need more airplanes on boats to go cover more surface area of the earth.
Yep, right? Absolutely. Kara's just like planes, yeah.
What?
I haven't got a good jab in on Carol in a couple of episodes. So
she's about to run over you with her motorcycle. You know that.
Yeah, that's right.
She might. I've been talking with Carol about motorcycles so much that I'm now getting ads on Facebook for motorcycles. Thanks, Carol.
That is frightening that they listen in on you. If you say, if you ask Google to Google anything, those ads start freaking appearing.
Yes.
Like crazy.
I like them because the reason I like them is I don't like all the like regular marketing and the shit you see on TV. Like, I don't care about any of those ads. Like, oh, get a new car, one day only. It's like one day only every week.
I know, right?
Sell cars, right? Like, I'm not in the market for a car. At least Google listens to me and understands who I am as a person. What I don't like is when some other asshole in the room says something, then I got to look through all these bullshit ads that I don't care about because it was listening to this other person. That's what I don't like. Google, if you were going to stalk me, not the people I hang around.
Right. Voice recognition.
Can we talk about Amazon for a minute?
Sure.
Well,
so you go on Amazon
or the company.
No, the company.
Or the river. Yeah.
So you go on Amazon and you search around for a product that you want to buy, and it's an item that you may only buy once a year or once every 5 years in your life, kind of thing. And you're perusing and you're looking at the description, and you scroll down the bottom, and they're trying to upsell you with some related items, but those related items are the same thing from different companies. It's like, you're going to buy a lamp, and they want you to buy two other lamps of the same type or whatever. And it's like, no, I just want one. And why would I buy another lamp? And maybe a lamp's not a good example, but I think
lamp's a terrible
you get the flavor, right?
Well, yeah, because if it's not that much more, why wouldn't you buy two? Because we live in the land of excess. And that's why everybody has a fucking storage unit that they're spending freaking way too much for a month to collect their shit that they no longer use, which they could actually just give away. Just saying. I
mean, I much rather than suggest maybe a rug and a chair. If I'm going for a lamp in a room, then maybe things that would also go in a room would be the suggestion, as opposed to 2, 3, or 4 more lamps.
Well, see, the beautiful part about this is Jeff Bezos is listening right now, and he's writing down notes. He's like, fucking A, man, Andy knows his shit.
It's that right brain. It's
That's
that right brain.
Yeah.
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 It's that strategic side.
Do you ever, so when you were on this journey from going from left brain to right brain to
Yeah.
both, and then you said some other side of your brain too, you only got two sides, Andy. Did you ever struggle with trying to explain things from a left brain perspective? And it wasn't until you developed that right brain style that you were able to more effectively communicate?
Yes.
I
Yeah, because you
struggle
starting to
with
realize that it was people are either left brained or right brained, and you've got to ask some questions or try to find, peel the layer back, onion layer back enough to figure out whether a person's left brain or right brain, and you've got to then explain it in a way that they're going to understand. Now, when you're working for an aviation company, it's something very technical. You tend to have a lot of engineers and a lot of left-sided people, so you tend to stay over on that side when you're trying to explain things. Your challenge is more the right side and get more people to be thinking out of the box, more right-brained in trying to develop a strategy for the company. And that's where my challenge was the whole time. I felt like I was constantly about 10 years ahead of people in strategic thought.
Yes.
For a while, I felt like I called it a flat forehead, and blood running down the side of my head from hitting it against a brick wall all the time, trying to explain these things to people, and eventually got to a point of I'm just going to throw a piece of popcorn out. I have to be patient with it. I'm being impatient. Be patient with it. Throw out these little bits of popcorn, and eventually
catch up. Because, yeah, it's a problem. I mean, not everybody comprehends and understands the same way.
No.
Also, there's levels of the way people understand. So just because they're a right brain person, they might not understand the concept another right brain person would, because he's further along in his development, right?
Yes.
So it's hard to adjust, to be able to hit that sweet spot to accommodate everybody.
Yeah, and if they're right brain but they're just not as far along with you, you don't necessarily get that glazed look when you're talking. They're somewhat holding on. They're getting parts and pieces of it, you can tell, and you just need to help them.
All those little electrons are firing.
And hopefully they're curious and they're asking questions, and you can keep helping them to learn and explain away. But at least you're connecting in some way. Right. If they're left-brained, you get
asking questions, Andy. At least they're asking questions.
At least they're asking questions. But
and they have no idea.
If you get the glazed look and no questions are coming out, then that's a big clue that they're on the other side of the brain, and you got to take a whole different strategy to the approach.
Yeah. Okay, I got to ask you, I'm going to describe a problem I used to have, and I want to find out if you've had the same problem.
All right.
Used to listen to a problem or a situation, and I would respond, and I get this confused look. And what I eventually realized I was doing is I was responding in my head and then hearing their response and going 3 or 4 answers deep, and then picking up the conversation much further down the line than they were. And they're like, how the fuck did you get there?
Oh, so in other words, you were able to already connect 3 of the dots ahead.
Yes. Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're pulling them
like,
all.
I don't even know how you got there. Like,
how did you get there?
About this, and now you're on.
Yep.
Whatever. Like, how did you get there? Yeah. And like, someone pointed out to me, like, are you doing this? And they described it to me, and it was like, yeah. I didn't realize I wasn't having that out loud with people.
Right.
And I was just further down the conversation or down the strategic path. And it like took forever for me to figure out how to walk with people through the conversation.
Yeah.
Or did you learn to answer a question with a question?
Oh, I've done that too. Yeah. Yeah.
You're like, well, it didn't work just to sort of blurt out and connect the dots. Maybe it's a coaching moment. Now I have an opportunity to ask a question or answer a question with a question. And now the roles reverse, and you're being a coach to sort of help pull them along, right?
So what I was describing is like when I was the worker and we had like a problem came up, like I was problem solving through the whole conversation.
Yep.
And when I became the leader, I realized that answering people's questions only trained them to come to me with all of their problems. And
Because
so I
you-
stopped giving answers and
Giving
I started
answers.
asking questions about how they could walk through the process of solving their own problems.
So
'Cause I
you,
don't have the time to answer all their damn problem, all their questions.
Right.
Yeah.
so you moved from being a consultant to a coach.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what consultants do, is they give you the answer, right? Well, let us come in, look around, ask a few questions and figure out what the problem is. And then we'll write out all the answers for you.
Right.
You pay me the money and I'll give you the answers. And then we walk away and let you go implement these things. Whereas a
Yeah.
coach is more about, no, I want to teach you some things. I want to help you learn how to critically think about these things so that you don't need me anymore.
Yeah.
Consultant wants you to keep bringing them back all the time, right? We'll give you an answer.
I don't
You know,
want
we'll
clients
give
like
you the
that.
lollipop and hopefully you'll come back for,
If
for
we're
some
together
more.
3 years later in this kind of relationship, I'm just assuming I'm terrible at my job.
Me
Mhm.
too.
Like I don't like I wanna get you on the right set and the right train and figure out how to write
Yep.
so you can go and perpetuate greatness on your own and be like, dude, how you're so amazing now. Man, Travis hooked me up. It only took like 3 months. Like, go talk
Yep.
to Travis. Like, yes. Like I
That's
don't
why I
need
tell my clients, I'm here to help you put me out of a job per se.
yeah.
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 Right. You know, like
absolutely.
Hinge. Have you seen the ads for the dating app Hinge? You know, where
No.
they have their
Oh,
logo and it sets itself on fire and all those type things. It's like,
Right.
we're
No.
we're here for you to fire us kind of, you know, mentality, because we helped you find a significant other or whatever, and we don't want to be in your life all the time. We want to help you find a significant other and then get out of your way.
Wait, is Hinge new?
Oh, what have they
I've
been
never
around,
heard of
like
it.
3 years or so?
Yeah.
So
3 years?
okay, just so we're clear, I grew up traditional way of dating. You meet
Mm.
somebody, you date. I knew people that were like going online, right?
Yep.
And on these apps. And I was like, how do you guys do that? Like I would want to meet the person. I
You
would
just
want
swipe
to
right
see,
on every profile. That's how you meet people.
oh my God. Like I need to like actually talk to them, meet them face to face, see if there's any chemistry. Like that to me is the basics. But
Well, I mean, that's what dating apps are set up to do. Is it just creates a bigger funnel or
Bigger pool.
opportunities to meet people, but you still have to get to that point. You have a little bit of a chit chat, so to speak, online, and if you say, "Oh, this person's interesting enough, here's my phone number," you set up a date, and then you go do what you just described, Carol.
that's so much work.
Oh, tell me about it. I hate it.
It's
I
so
hate it with a passion. I really do.
So
Like,
I've been married for over 20 years, but I have a Tinder story because of all the guys on the crew when we go out to all these places, right? So
Yeah.
almost inevitably, the flight deck is full of young pilots that are single. Occasionally, there's a married guy up there, right? But vast majority of the time, it's 3 dudes that are single. And when we're doing pattern work, where we're coming in for landing, then taking back off, going around the pattern, getting those
Yep.
reps that we need to do to stay proficient.
Getting
in the
graded on
military.
each one. Yep.
Yeah. Well, they would turn their phones on, and as they got signal as they're going in, the guy in the back's like swiping right on 3 phones for every profile they meet for the chance to meet someone in the town they're landing, and they don't have time to be judicious, right? They're just swiping right. As
So
many
when
as
they're
fast
when
as they
they're in
possibly
cell
can.
coverage, when they're coming in for landing and getting in cell coverage, they're quickly swiping.
Yes.
Oh
So
my
they
God.
kick back off, and sometimes they'll come back around. There'll be a match, and then I had
they
like
were
fast
man
forward.
whores. Are you kidding? They're freaking man whores.
They will do the work after, but they would hate the chance to match on someone that was available like that night.
Yeah.
Because you're
Oh
only
my
in town
God.
generally 1 or 2 nights, and I'm not talking about sex, but like just even the chance to meet up at all. You've got to not only find someone that can match with you, but is also available.
Yeah.
Freaking hookup site, isn't it? Tinder's supposed to
Yeah,
be a freaking
I don't judge. After Michael's conversation, I don't judge anymore.
No, I'm not talking about judging about every single site. I'm talking about like freaking Tinder in itself is like
I know people that
immediate.
use
Are you
Facebook
in this
as a
location?
hookup app.
Let's
So
hook up. You know?
I know people that all they do is use Facebook to hook up. But so fast forward a number of years, I'm I'm talking to this gal. I don't remember, we're like at a conference or something like that. And she's like, could you explain this to me? Like, I don't know. I don't understand this. I was like, well, what are you talking about? She's like, oh, I'm on a Tinder, and I feel like every time that I swipe right on a guy, we match. So I got a chance to tell her the story about how there's guys out there that just do this.
They're just doing it,
for the match to happen. And she's
yeah,
like,
they're
"They
not
don't
being
put any thought
discerning at
into it."
all.
They do. They're just using the other brain.
Yes. Small brain.
Well, I mean, I can appreciate that strategy. I get on Bumble. So
The numbers
so
game. Come on, like
It
Yeah,
is
so-
a numbers game. Totally.
yeah, it's totally a numbers game, Carol. So for Bumble, they put the power in the woman's hands, right? So if you match up, the woman has to start the conversation, and it gets to the point where you match up with, and they only have 24 hours to start the conversation once you get matched up. And I can't tell you how many times I've matched up with women on Bumble and the conversation never gets started.
Oh my God. So
And it's because the pool is so big. The pool is so big. They've got so many choices. It's just like, oh, well, I can sit here and match with 10 guys, and then I'll pick the one I like out of the best 10 and concentrate on him, and all the other 9 just go by the wayside because it's easy, it's convenient, you're behind your phone. I mean,
all I can say is, like, if that's what you're dealing with, Andy, like, I feel for you, because I see
it's terrible.
And it's, to me, it's like, oh my God, I can't even imagine what an immense amount of time that takes, because then you invest time in this person, right? You start talking to them. But then if they ghost you, you just wasted all that time. Like that. I would like to just meet somebody and say, fuck, no way. Dumb as a box of rocks, fucking out, right? One time, done, gone. And I still probably have time to go catch a drink with my girlfriends, right?
Yep.
Like, that would be more ideal.
So
And but by the way, I am in a relationship, so like that's not a thing. But
so you're into the traditional way of doing business, and so I got to ask you, what are some of the craziest pickup lines that have ever been used on you?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh my God. What's one of them that made me laugh my ass off?
Did you just fall out of the sky because you're like an angel to me?
Oh my God.
See, I always use the other line, like, did it hurt? Did what hurt?
Did it hurt?
Like,
Yeah.
Broke through Earth's crust and ascended from hell.
Right.
Oh, no.
That got a laugh almost every time.
Oh my God. No, that I had the funniest one, I think, was, are your legs tired? Oh, your legs must be tired because you've been running through my mind all day.
All day. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like,
What my buddy used, he's like, feeling down, I can feel you up.
ew.
Oh,
Creepy. Fucking creepy. Ew.
This is how little guys know about courtship nowadays.
oh yes.
God, like, no, I just, when you meet people and you met them in the like normal places, like you meet them at, the library, you met them
In the grocery store. Yep.
Exactly. Like just organic ways of meeting people instead of like,
Or through a friend.
Somebody on a look to start a conversation.
Yep.
Right. I think that's fucked up.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just my 2 cents. But I get it. There's a lot of people that use them. Some of them use them in multiple different platforms. And you want to talk about numbers game? I'm like, those guys should be fucking like on fire, because the amount of numbers that they go through, they should be, they should be doing.
Well, what about this? This happened to me recently, where Facebook has a dating side to it. You can sign up for the dating piece, and they try to match you up based off of profile or whatnot. And I had one woman presented to me who's a friend of a friend, right? So they tell you, this person is a friend of this friend of yours that you're on Facebook with. So here's a woman that gets presented to me. She's a friend of a friend, and I'm like, I really trust and respect this friend of mine because they're fairly close to him. And I'm like, okay, I'll take a chance and hit the like button. And the next day she hits like too. send a message, try to start the conversation, and nothing comes back. And a week later, I got deleted. So how do you think that conversation is now going to go between myself and my friend?
Well, see, I think you did it wrong.
Right.
Right.
I did it wrong.
My friend that we have a family friend that we've known for years, matched with one of my other friends. And so she messaged me, or actually messaged my wife, like, hey, you guys know this guy? Like, what do you think about this dude?
Yeah, maybe I should have done that
first.
Maybe I should have done that.
Connect. Like,
well, I haven't had a conversation with my friend yet, but that's going to be a topic when we finally get together
Andy,
again.
Does it really matter just because they were friends of your friend? I mean, what the fuck? It doesn't really matter. It's not going to change your friendship with your friend.
Well, maybe his friends were talking shit about him to the girl, and she was like, "What do you think of this Andy?" And they were like, "Ugh, definitely not Andy."
That's not a friend, though.
Well, I know, but then you will know that they're not friends anymore.
Yeah.
Or you got to get your shit together, one or the other.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's the kind of dynamics that are out there, Carol.
Oh, I am so grateful that even after all this time, because I've been divorced, and then I've had a couple of longer relationships, right? Also, but when I met my now boyfriend, I mean, it turned out we were both in the industry, and he's just so happened to come into my life when when I got rid of my old boyfriend. So that was great. Right. And it only started from conversation, but it wasn't like I didn't know him. I knew of him. He was an acquaintance. So it was weird. And I'm going to tell you why. This whole thing about dating a friend is really like, I actually had to sit down and think about this. Like, do I want to explore this further as a relationship where I know that if the relationship ends, it could go badly? Or do I want to really throw myself in there and go, if this turns out great, I mean, our commonalities are so vast that it could end up being the best relationship of my life.
Yep. Well, it's all about the risk and the vulnerability, right?
Exactly. And you know what? He is the best relationship of my life.
There you go.
Good job, Ollie. Proud of you.
Yeah.
Go Canada.
Maybe that's the issue, is you need somebody from another country.
Well,
that might be true.
There's something to be said. Cultural differences sometimes, can be it can be really good, because there's such a huge sense of entitlement here that the women might be not your cup of tea. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Different part of the country, different part of the city, different part of the hemisphere.
Culturally different. Even in the US, just maybe a first generation or a second generation, where the cultures are still greatly immersed into your life, because I know growing up in the Chinese culture, I didn't realize till my ex-boyfriend had said something that I was very different from the girls he was dating. And the one thing he said was, they're all entitled bitches. And I just thought, what about just being a human being? Like, you don't, if you're just a human being and you care and are compassionate about people and you love that person and you're willing to, help them, get to where they want in life too. I mean, isn't that just part of being a human being? So why do you have to, I don't understand why it has to be a cultural difference, but somehow my culture, the way I was raised, made me very different from all the girlfriends he had dated.
But that's exactly 100% how it works. The things that we go through in our experiences as we grow up and go through different things in life, depending on where we are and the values of the area, influence us heavily. I grew up in trailer parks and foster homes. I had a very different value system than people that were just middle class living in the same town. Huge different value system. Like if I had a knock on my door, they would answer in town. I wouldn't answer because there was never anything good coming to my door.
Yeah.
Well, just so simple and innocuous is a huge difference based on how you were raised, what culture you were raised up, what values you were raised under. Like we had a lot of northern Minnesota especially is Scandinavian country, Polish, German, and some Danish people, but you're
Yeah, because they
getting
can all stand the fucking cold.
that's why they got there, right? They can all stand the cold. But like family gatherings were a certain way, the type of desserts that were made were a certain way, the way people worked in the community, especially with their elderly, was a certain way. And if you get closer to Mexico and you have a lot of Mexican influence on the families around, like they operate a different way. And it's not good, bad, or whatever. It's just the way that the culture was ingrained into them. And you get into places like I went to Egypt for a wedding, like the way that they operate and the way they interact as people and the way that they do things out at restaurants. And the restaurants are open all night and close at 8 a.m. We're at that 3 a.m. and there's families running around with kids, but no one's drinking because they're smoking hookah, but no one's drinking. There's not alcohol. And that's part of their culture. So they made fun of me. It was like 3 a.m. I was like, man, I got to go to bed. I had got up at 5 that day because that's in the military, right? That's the culture I'm in. And they're like, oh, Americans are such bitches, they have to go to bed early. If I slept till noon like you did, I would be fine right now, but I didn't. So I've got to go to bed because I'm tired, right? Well, but it has nothing to do with anything other than the culture really matters. The socioeconomic status really matters. The amount of education really matters. The people that a family allows their kids to be around, the type of behavior they allow inside their home matters greatly.
Well, let me throw something else at you, masculinity and femininity. So I did a presentation in front of an all businesswoman organization. I threw a chart up on the screen. On the left-hand side were the traits and characteristics and words to describe femininity, and on the right side was for masculinity. And 95% of them were married. And I said, let's just pretend that you're not married and you're dating. When you're on Tinder and you're swiping left and right and so forth, what are the gotta haves? I'm looking for a guy, and what kind of traits and characteristics are you looking for a guy? Where on this piece of paper are they? And the ones they start listing off are all on the masculine side, right? From a confidence factor and so forth. I said, okay, so you swipe left and right, you've got this pool of 10 guys. Now, out of these 10, what are you looking for? Where are the words on this piece of paper you're going to use to help filter that 10 down to 1 or 2? And the words they started pulling out were on the femininity side.
Sensitivity and compassion and all that.
And being able to connect on an intimate level and all those type things. And so that's, in my coaching, when I address this issue, I talk about a muscle, right? So for us guys, our core is the masculine, but we need to develop that feminine, empathetic, whatever type muscle that we have. And for women, it's the exact opposite, because I said, I'm going to go through this exercise with you all now for my side. And what I'm looking for, gotta haves, are over on the feminine side, and the ones that I help filter over here on the masculine side, like independent, confident, and those type things. So in our country, where we're getting into, women are getting more into leadership, and they're sort of living more in that masculine energy when they're at work. The challenge for them is they're coming home to a guy that's core is masculine, and they want their woman to be in the core of the feminine. And on that 30-minute commute home, they sort of got to unwrench themselves from all that masculine themed thought and get into the feminine, so that they can then interact and connect with their guy at home. And likewise, guys need to work on their feminine side, their feminine muscle per se, so they can be better leaders, more empathetic at work, and so forth, and pull it out of their pocket when their wife sits down on the couch and brings them a glass of wine and wants to connect. That's not to say that.
It's also being present, though, too.
And being present, connecting. It's not to say we want you living in that all the time, but to manage it, to have a command, if you will, over it. So when the time is appropriate, you pull that out of your pocket and you can connect with your woman at the appropriate times.
Yeah. Well, getting back to the whole dating thing too, because we're talking about that. I mean, I know there's a lot of people probably in that same space. My best friend, we've been best friends since I was 15. I love him like he's my brother, basically from another mother, but my brother,
Mm-hmm.
grew up with him. His wife passed away from COVID, and
Oh, sorry to hear that.
yeah, and I mean, it was she was essentially the love of his life, right? They have two children. Um, Obviously, they lost their mother, right? And him dating right now, he's like, oh my fucking Lord.
Yep.
Like, because he grew up the same way I did. We met all of our significant others in person, organically. So he's trying to do this dating thing, which I'm sure you're trying to do, right, Andy?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And he's like, there's just so many people out there, and to find a quality individual, people will say the right things, like the things you want to hear, to get that person to start that conversation with you. And then he goes, there was one person, he goes, oh, I'm going on a date later. So I called him later and I was like, how was the date? And he goes, fucking, their picture was like 10 years old.
Yeah. I've had those.
Like literally like the best year they ever had, and they took that picture and put it on their profile.
Yep.
And did not look anything like what they did in person. And he goes, it's so disappointing that people can't be honest, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I sit there and I think about all these things, and I think about like how Ollie and I met, because we met during COVID. He's Canadian. I live in the US. We couldn't see each other. So how did we end up dating? It was old fashioned. I got to know him like in a much more intimate level, right?
Mm-hmm.
By just conversing with him through the time frame until we could actually see each other in person. And even then it was a risk, because we didn't know if chemistry wise it was going to work. We just knew everything else was perfect. Right? So it was awkward. It was freaking awkward. But there's something to be said about the old way of like courting, right? That courtship, there's there's a sensuality behind it.
Well, the woman I had the best connection with, in the last 7 years I've been single, was a sister of a woman I met on an airplane. I sat next to her on the airplane. I felt like I knew her all my life when we got off, and she called up her sister and says, you need to connect with this guy. And we made an agreement. She lived in the Phoenix area. I'm in Atlanta. And we made an agreement that we weren't going to do any video calls. So we were going to see each other for the first time would be in person. So we set up Friday night dates. We each bought a bottle of wine, got on the phone, poured ourselves a glass of wine, and just talked. Yeah. Every 2 weeks I was sending her flowers, just doing the old traditional thing.
Yeah.
And scheduled a time for me to come visit, like 4 months of doing this. And I flew out to Phoenix. Her sister and I think that she met a guy the weekend before, because that last week before I showed up, she sort of went distant on me. We really didn't connect when I was there. She's making excuses and not really connecting. But that process of that 4 months, just talking on the phone and connecting over glasses of wine and having those intimate conversations for 4 months was really strong. Yeah. Obviously it was disappointing. Things didn't work out. I mean, I kid you not, I was literally walking off the plane in the Phoenix airport and her sister's on the phone calling me going, did you get there yet? Did you get there? She was so excited for the two of us to physically, meet and so forth. And it didn't happen, but I still believe, Carol, what you're saying in that process of it's about communication in that intimate connection, because.
But you know what? A relationship that starts off with the ability to communicate, stronger than anything else. Because if you can communicate, and we didn't do video chats. In fact, it never occurred to us to do video chats.
Yeah.
So we would just talk on the phone, right?
Didn't feel like there was a need to.
No. Well, here's the funny part. We were laughing because he's like, I said to him, I go, it's not like you're going to get catfished. You know what I look like, you know? We've met before, unless all of a sudden I packed on like 200 pounds, right?
Yeah.
Well, then your kangaroo jumpsuit wouldn't fit you anymore.
Ah, fuck off.
I feel like I'm missing
I was
something
gonna
here.
say that doing video chat never occurred to you, not because of any of those other reasons, but because you're old. That's what I was gonna say, but I didn't say that. Never occurred to us because that's just not how things were done the last time you were dating. Huh?
Be nice to your elders, Travis.
I don't try to be nice to anybody. I try to always be myself, and sometimes it turns out to be polite, kind, and generous, and sometimes it turns out that I'm a dick.
Well, you know.
There you go again with that pull, in appropriate moment, pulling it out of your pocket kind of thing, right? That we were just talking about.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
When I need to be a dick, I'm going to be a dick.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, the whole communication part, I think, is what makes it, I think, that much more, I don't know, sexier, right? Because then if you do connect on top of that, it's fucking great.
Yeah, I just had a little bit of a Twitter dialogue this morning with two women that have a podcast. They were talking about men that get on the Twitter, and a woman makes a negative comment about men, and all of a sudden they get inundated with these men that feel they have to reply and go, not all men, not me, you know, kind of thing. And I think our society here in the United States, I can't speak for all countries, but we need to go through a process of redefining what strength is in a man.
Yeah.
Well, they don't even know what masculinity really is. They say it's toxic masculinity, and I would argue that those qualities that they're experiencing, none of them are masculine.
Yeah. It sucks because, you know, I don't think they even have a definition, because my kids are, I think they're more feminine than they are masculine because they're more in touch with their feelings, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what really pisses me off is we're labeling shit. And
do you know why that is?
Huh?
Do you know why everything is labeled?
Tell us
we have
why.
to. Our primordial brain, the thing that keeps us safe, trauma response, right? Our brain is the first thing we care about in any situation. When anything is brought up, when anything new is coming up, our first thing is always safety. And the sooner we can put a label on it, whatever the label is, the safer.
Right or wrong.
The safer we feel. It is ingrained in who we are as people that we have to put a label on every fucking thing.
Toxic, you know, masculinity. I mean, yeah, let's just put it this way. There are assholes out there. Okay?
I've seen
just
them.
leave it at that.
Looking at one on camera right now.
Travis.
I'm not going to take offense to that.
So yeah, I mean, honestly, Andy, I feel for you, and I wish people weren't so superficial, because there's so much beauty within people, and it's only looking externally, like, you miss so much. You know, what you see is only one of your 5 senses, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what is wrong with you that you can't open it up and look inside? Because there are so many beautiful people in the world, and all you're seeing is the exterior, and that is so fucking superficial.
Well, that leads me to my tweet that's pinned on my Twitter. It reads, "You're not truly loving a person until you love their body, mind, and soul.
Absolutely.
Not pieces, but all the parts.
All of it together.
Together."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agree.
I know I've made this comment in real life, and I've made the comment on this show that I only hang around with beautiful people. And I had someone in person when I said that, they're like, "That's pretty pompous of you." And I was like, "It's pretty assuming that you thought I meant the physical."
Yes.
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 And he looked at me, and they were like, "What?" I was like, "I don't care what they look like physically. I
Yeah.
care that they're a beautiful person on the inside.
On the
And
inside.
there's a reason we don't hang out."
Yeah.
He was like, "You know what, Travis? Fuck you." I was like, "Truer words have never been spoken. Get the fuck out of here, pal."
Well, that's why, my dating journey, I tell women that if I sent you a note or liked you, depending on the mechanism on the dating app, that means I've already checked the outer beauty part. Done. Doesn't need to be discussed.
Mm-hmm.
I'm only interested now in just conversation to understand your inner beauty.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think
Because I want to be in a relationship with a beautiful person inside and out, and I can see in an instant on the outside beauty, but it takes time and, like you said, Carol, communication to understand the inner beauty of a person.
well, and also I think that communication comes down to whether or not you have that maturity, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have to have the intellectual maturity to have those conversations.
Well, and emotional too, emotional maturity.
Emotional too.
And the
Yeah.
authenticity. The whole
Yes.
premise of this
Vulnerability.
show is to be the real damn person.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
we like just Andy.
So-
We brought Andy on because he is a Titan. We don't invite anyone on the show that's not already a Titan by any stretch of the imagination. But we don't talk about their business because I don't care about their business. Their
Yeah.
business is what got them on the show. What's
Right.
going to get them through the show is if they're authentic and they share and they care and they show us who they really are. Every other podcast is going to tell you, "Oh, here's my special things. Here's the 3 tips that I have for you and your business." I don't care about any of that shit. I care about Andy.
Yeah.
As a person.
And that's why in my podcast, I want to tell the story, right? I want people to understand your story. I mean, if you're on it, you're an entrepreneur and so forth. We'll talk about your career a little bit, but at the end of the day, I'm asking questions, and I've had people get off going, "Wow, you didn't ask me the standard questions I usually get on podcasts." And I'm like, that's because I want to hear your story.
Yeah.
That's what makes you human, is your story. And that's what we're trying to get at here, is because storytelling is such a powerful tool in leadership, because you get people to insert themselves in the story that you're telling. And that's how you get connection and engagement with it. And that's what I want in a podcast. Yeah.
We're human beings. We all are here to be connected, right?
Yep.
We are interconnected, but it's actually, we have to connect with people. They don't understand. It's two different things. We're already interconnected. We're all involved in each other's stories.
And I like to tell a little story, because my name is Andy McDowell, and I know I disappoint a lot of people. I probably disappointed you when it came onto the screen, and they're like, "That's not the Andy McDowell I was expecting."
No.
My retort is always, "Yeah, but I stayed at a Holiday Inn Express last night." That's my story.
Oh my goodness.
I love that about you, Andy. Give us before we're getting ready to wrap up here, give us something about you that just no one really knows about you. Like your group of friends, like they don't know this thing has happened to you, about you. Give us one of those insider stories that you don't share with a whole lot of people.
I sang national anthem at a Braves game.
That's cool.
Yeah.
National anthem. You had to work on your creative side, eventually join singing, and then you get to sing the national anthem.
Now, I didn't sing it alone. I sang it with 11 other people. But John Sherholtz, who used to be the general manager of the Braves, was a member of my church. And he asked our a cappella choir, which I was in, to come in one day at a Braves game. We assembled right behind the pitcher's mound and sang the national anthem a cappella.
That is awesome.
That's pretty
I had
cool.
my parents in the seats, and my face was on the big jumbotron out in center field, and it was a special moment for me.
It sounds like it. Who was the other team? Who were they playing against?
I want to say the Brewers. No, because Brewers are in the American League now. Maybe it was the Mets. Somebody had blue stripes,
Some of them have
in the
blue stripes.
uniform.
I love it.
Yeah. That was pretty cool. We assembled out in left field. They didn't give us a room to practice in, so we were on a pedestrian ramp behind a hot dog stand. Our director and 12 of us back there practicing singing the national anthem a cappella, and they said assemble, make your way down this ramp to this area right behind left field, and then they opened the doors wide, and we got to walk out on the field from actually it's right field, not left field, and walk all the way out to the infield behind the mound and sing the national anthem, and then walk back off the field. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's got to be electric in the stadium in front of, I don't know how many seats they have, probably 45,000 seats in a stadium.
Yeah, it was a day game. It was either one of those manager specials, whatever they call them, on a Wednesday during the day, or it was a Sunday. I don't remember which, but it was a day game. It wasn't an evening game. That was pretty cool. Not many people can say that. Not many people can say that they help two governments get their airports ready for Olympic Games, but it's also not many people can say they've sung the national anthem at a sporting event. Usually that's reserved for celebrities and whatnot, right?
Neither. Definitely neither.
I mean, I didn't help Russia and China get their airports ready, but I did stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night. Hey, Andy, tell the good.
You heard it here first, folks. You heard it here first. Travis stayed at a Holiday Inn Express last night. Bring a bottle of bourbon along with you.
To even get that joke, but I totally understand. Where's the one place you want people to connect with you at? Tinder?
And I can't say the local pub, right? We connected the local pub. I'll buy you a bourbon. My website's www.generateyourvalue. I'm all about helping people to figure out ways they can generate value in this world, to generate it, not extract it, but to generate it. You mentioned my podcast. If you want to work on your personal branding or your business or anything of that nature, check out the podcast. I do it with a co-host.
GenerateYourValue.com?
GenerateYourValue.com. Mm-hmm.
Hey, Andy, thanks so much for being our guest today.
Thank you for the honor and the privilege. And you guys do great things. Keep going.
Thank you.
That's all for this episode of Titan Evolution Podcast. We hope this no-holds-barred conversation opened your eyes on what it takes to live a genuinely happy life according to your own terms. Now that you've treated yourself to such a refreshing discussion, you cannot listen to nonsense content anymore. Be sure not to miss an episode by subscribing to the show at TitanEvolutionPodcast.com. Don't forget to share the word so more people can be enlightened, informed, and entertained. Thank you for listening.